is that a thought is neither negative nor positive. A thought is memory being repeated in the mind. We interpret it according to its memory, the story that we've had, and say, oh, that thought told me when I was a child. Oh, when I was a child I wasn't loved enough, or I was abused. Immediately. So it's a negative thought. See? Because we added the story to the thought itself. But the thought itself is neutral. So when we see a thought as a thought, we have taken a giant leap into the now. Into this now. And remember, there's nothing more important than now. One time Eckhart Tolle was being asked about, okay, talk about now, fine, great, who's going to take care of the bills? Who's going to pay the mortgage? Who's going to take care of my family or sickness or whatever? This is a quote, I took it from Common Ground. This is what he said. Tomorrow's bills are not the problem. The dissolution of the physical body is not a problem. That is even if you're dying. Loss of now is the problem. Or rather, the core delusion that turns a mere situation into a personal problem, thus suffering. You see? So that is the real understanding. Okay? So you see something as it actually is. I am taking my time here because this is so incredibly important. What you add to it is interpretation. Interpretation, you can call it, what is interpretation. But what you interpret as negative or positive is not reality. Now, every thought has an opposite. And the reason most people who are not, quote, awakened, or don't know they're awakened, because we just assume everybody is, they don't know they're awakened, what happens is that they live from the opposite of the thought, the opposition to it. Okay, so because every desire, every intention, every motivation, every thought has its opposite immediately. But the opposite is so immediate that it takes over, and we live from it. And so people, if you see people who think a lot, usually they're very heavy and very serious people, because they think a lot, and therefore they are mostly negative, or rather caught in that duality. Let me give an example what I mean by that. A thought always has an opposite. Suppose you have a beautiful thought. I want to be awakened. It's a beautiful thought. Immediately there's the thought, I wonder how that would be for me. I wonder what I'll be like. Is it possible that I can be awakened? You see? Negative. Immediately there's the opposite of it. This is immediate. Why? Because that is the nature of duality. And thought is memory. And thought is not real. Thought is what makes the world appear real. Is what makes your world appear real. But the real is what is fresh, what is new, what is alive. Like a flower, like the sun, like the rain. You see? Like every breath you take is... Did you know that every breath you take is new? Every blink you make is new? And it registers millions and millions of impressions to make you say, I see. Every sound is new. There's nothing that is old in the moment. Nothing. Every cell of your body is not the same like it was yesterday. Your bodies change, our cells are changing all the time. This is the reality. This is what is. Nothing is ever old. Thoughts are always old. Always. If you have a desire to be young, then there's a fear of being old. You see? It's inevitable. If you have a desire to be rich, you become greedy. It's inevitable, because you can never have enough, because you're afraid of spending or losing it. You see? So, thought always has an opposite. This is inevitable. And if this is understood, you've already taken a giant leap in your understanding of what is. Now, this is the most important part about the witnessing or the seeing of what is. What I'm going to say next. Thought always has an opposite. Not this thought or that thought. You know, thought doesn't care. Whether it's a positive thought or a negative thought, it will have its opposite automatically. That's the nature of duality.
So a negative thought will have a positive thought?
No. No, it will have its opposite.
What is opposite to negative? Positive?
No, not really. Suppose you think, oh, I hope I won't die. Negative thought. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, the other thought that will happen, you might not die, but you'll feel miserable after that. You know, you won't be grateful that you didn't die, because you say, oh my goodness, I'd have to go through this, what's wrong, why should I? But you see what I mean? The moment you think a negative thought, it reinforces more negative thought, but it creates another thought, which is also opposite. Now, when I say opposite, does not mean negative and positive, okay, necessarily. It means that it opposes what you yourself were hoping for. Do you understand?
So how do you get through? It almost feels like a catch-22.
It is a catch-22. Mm-hmm. That's what awakening is, to get out of that catch-22. And what we're going to discuss next, which is very, very subtle. Okay? So the average person is always caught in this dilemma. For example, take relationships. Now, psychologists agree that 98% of all relationships are codependent. Now, we know what codependence is. Okay, codependence is, I am in this relationship because I want love in my life. Therefore, if you stop loving me, I'm going to run, I'm going to escape. You see? So, you want to be loved. The other person also wants to be loved. But the ideal relationship, which is, of course doesn't really exist emotionally, is, I want someone to love. I don't care whether they love me or not. This is very rare. What you want is somebody to love you. You see? That's called codependence. So therefore, because you want somebody to love you, immediately you've created its opposite. What if they leave me? What if they don't love me back? What if they cheat? What if they're not true? What if they don't love me as much as I would learn to love them? I would learn to love them. You see what I mean? What if it dies? What if they change? And of course, emotional love, which is not true love, but it's a growing love, you know, but it's not mature yet. What happens is it always shifts, it always changes. Because true love is not emotional. True love is seeing what is. You look at your wife and you see a goddess, literally. And you look at the man and you see God. You see, in other words, you see their sublime essence of being. In other words, you see them as now. Okay? Now, how do we get off this catch-22? Okay? By becoming the witness. Now, you see, we already said that everybody is awake, but they don't know it. Why is that? Because everybody is aware of what is happening to them. Were you ever really angry? Really angry? And somehow there was a witness, you knew that you were angry? It's always there, isn't it? Always there. No matter how crazy, how nutty you are, there's always a witness to it. Now that witness is pure. That witness is totally here. And it's unchanging, and it's fresh, and it's new, and it's alive. And it's awake. If, however, a person goes berserk, they lose their temper, this happens 1 in 100 maybe, and there's no witness to them, okay, they can go insane. They lose it. They can have a total breakdown of sanity. You see? Because at that point they have totally blocked the witness. But it's very, very rare to block the witness, because there's always... That's why sometimes when you're half awake, you know, you almost get angry, you do something, quote, wrong, and then you feel guilty. That guilt, although is very destructive, it's one of the most destructive emotions you can have, yet the guilt is the result of having a conscience. You see what I mean? Oh, I did something wrong, because you're aware of it. So in other words, this is the play. Now, in the beginning, people are awake, but they don't know it. So they live a very asleep life, which is a very suffering life, full of worry, tension, stress, etc., etc. Then there is half-awake life, They're still caught in the world, but they're still interested in truth. So they're pulled, one and the other, one and the other. They understand, but there's that pull still to the world. There's still, but, what if, what, You see? That's half awake, we can call it. That's not my term. Adyashanti calls it half awake, so I'm using his words. And then there is a third one. A third one is when you're fully awake. And this is when you see very clearly and you're free. And it doesn't matter how you are, what you say, because you know the truth is fresh in you, and you are not your image, you are not who you think you are. Yeah.